Before we get into the episode, I am thrilled to announce that the EntreMD Business School is open for enrollment. The EntreMD Business School is the only school of its kind for physicians who want to build 6, 7, and multiple 7-figure businesses. Over the last 2 years, we have had hundreds of doctors go through the school with unbelievable results. Some of them run brands, some of them run private practices, some of them are coaches, some have other kinds of service-based businesses or product-based businesses. And we've had people come in and cross the 6-figure milestone, cross the 7-figure milestone, cross the multiple 7-figure milestone. You will be in a place where you'll get the coaching, the community, the accountability that you need to thrive as an entrepreneur, especially in the times that we're in. So maybe you've been following me for a while. Maybe you've been getting so much out of the EntreMD podcast and you've been wondering, how can I work with Dr. Una and the community more? Well, this is your chance. Come join us in the EntreMD Business School. It is application only. So go to entremd.com/business to turn in your application. I cannot tell you how many doctors have made statements like this. I recovered my investment in the first week. I recovered my investment in my bank account in the first 90 days. This is the best investment I've made in myself ever. I want you to have that kind of story, not just a story of building a great business that serves a lot and earns a lot, but having a business that gives you the freedom to live life on your terms. So don't wait any longer. entremd.com/business. And now for the episode. Hi, docs. Welcome to the EntreMD podcast, where it's all about helping amazing physicians just like you embrace entrepreneurship so you can have the freedom to live life and practice medicine on your terms. I'm your host, Dr. Una. Well, hello, my friend. Welcome back to another episode of the EntreMD podcast, and we are going to have a blast today. I decided to record this episode because so many things have happened over the last 3.5 years, and I get a lot of questions about the EntreMD Business School. So I wanted to kind of create this episode to answer the questions, and it's almost like a state of the union. Okay. So I'll be sharing a little bit about how all of this started and what has happened. And you really are going to get a lot of it out of it as far as building your own business, but also to be aware of the kind of support that is available for physician entrepreneurs. And who knows where this goes from here, right? And I'm calling this EBS 5.0 because we've had many versions of the business school since it started in July of 2020. And, so I really just want to pull back the curtains and take you on a journey. It's going to be a fun ride. I am a good pilot. I'm a good content pilot. And this is going to be great. Okay. So we started the EntreMD Business School in July of 2020. And that was the year we had EntreMD Live. And I had done a number of things before. I had done a 12-week program, which was so good. And people got such amazing wins from it. They still talk about it till today, but it was 12 weeks. And so at the end of 12 weeks, people are like, oh my goodness, I don't believe this has to end and all this stuff. And I was like, I felt like I would never do a 12-week thing ever for as long as I live. And I think, the reason for that is because I'm really deeply sold on playing the long game. And the long game is breakthrough after breakthrough, leap after leap. And so every time I experience a leap, I'm very grateful for it, but then I recognize it as a stepping stone. Right. And so with a 12-week program for me, and please don't go bash somebody who's doing a 12-week program now, right? Like we're all different and our businesses align with who we are at our core. Okay. So this is me talking about me. And so for me, it made me feel like I did a disservice because the people had this leap, but clearly not a clear understanding that it's a leap and a stepping stone for the next leap. And so I was like, okay, that was great. That was wonderful. We got really great results, but I'm never doing that. I'm never doing that again for as long as I live. And then I did an experiment right after that with a 9-month program. So the 12-week program was called the Freedom Formula Masterclass. And then we started this 9-month program called the Six Figure Club. And it had a number of doctors in that as well. And I did that. And that was kind of like the precursor for the business school. I was like, okay, I was like, so why don't we call it what it is? And why don't we do a year? And even in doing the year, I knew, I've talked about this a number of times, I knew that it was really like, this is really, it's going to be the business school you never want to graduate from, right? Because I'm like, again, it's the leap. That's the stepping stone for the next leap. That's the stepping stone for the next leap. And I'm like, why would you want to stop? Like, this is so good. And with every leap, to take that leap, you have to unravel a version of yourself or an aspect of yourself that you either didn't know was there or you were too afraid to let out. And so the discovery of you, this is you becoming you. It's magical. But anyway, so after we did the Six Figure Club, I only ran that once. We were ready for the business school. And I had a lot of drama around launching the EntreMD Business School because I was like, what gives you the right to do that? Who do you think you are? You know, all of those kind of things. But it didn't stop me from doing it, but I did have a lot of shame around it. Like even when I would say it, I would cringe on the inside. Like, what did you just say? And so that really, you know, I told you this will be great for your business too. Like there are things you want to start embracing, you want to start doing, and you're afraid. I hope you do it afraid, because all the things that have gone on to happen wouldn't have happened if I didn't dare that fear. So anyway, I was really ashamed of it. I was like, I'm like, people are going to sign up for it and find out that it's not actually a business. Like it's a joke, you know, and things like that. So we had our first 22 students sign up, and I would forever be grateful to them in a way, because they were the ones who were like, okay, let's go do this. And it was just beautiful and magical from the beginning, right? And so we started with that. And so what was known as the EntreMD Business School. And with each new cohort, and it just got better and better. And for me, my commitment was, you would never come in a 90-day period and find me in the school the same. Like we are constantly looking for ways to make it better. And when I say better, I don't just mean bells and whistles. And this is for you as an entrepreneur. Like bells and whistles are great, but just remember that people want a transformation. People want to change. My people want to work there. They want to grow successful businesses, like whatever their definition of success is. And so we just kept growing it and, you know, helping people get bigger results, help them get results faster, like that was just my goal, to keep making it bigger. If you think about it, if you listen to the podcast, you know that I could have come up with 17 other businesses I could run at the same time, and so many different programs I could have run in EntreMD and all of that stuff. But my commitment really was to create the best version of the business school that I could. And that's why I stayed focused on it for so long. That's why I continue to stay focused on it. And so I worked that and worked it. And, you know, and I was so grateful that the results started changing. And as they changed, I could say more of what I really wanted to say, right? Like, so we started off, like we help doctors embrace entrepreneurship so they can live life and practice medicine on their terms. You know, because then a lot of the concepts were foreign. People were like, we can't build profitable businesses. We can't replace our salaries and all of that. But as people started crossing the $100,000 mark, people started launching practices and they're successful from day one. Coaches started really bringing in revenue and things like that. I was like, okay, we help doctors build profitable businesses so they can live life and practice medicine on their terms, right? And so we started, you know, using that because they were building these businesses. Because I don't necessarily like to make promises of things I'm not doing. I know I will get there, but I'm just not doing them yet. And so we did that. And then, you know, people still feel some kind of way. Like if you talk about a 7-figure business and all, it's like, okay, we'll let that be for right now. And then it started becoming a thing. People are like, oh, I crossed my million. Or, oh, my accountant was like, hey, did you know you crossed 1 million? Or, you know, like things like that. And I'm like, okay. So we help doctors build, right? So you see the evolution of the message. We help doctors build, 6, 7, and multiple 7-figure businesses. Now, my line has always been that we help doctors build 6, 7, and 8-figure businesses. And so once I help one person do that, you will hear the line change. You hear the line change again. Okay. And if you're someone who's like, I want to do that, I want to do it with you. Come on. Okay. So anyway, so that's kind of the way that evolved. Okay. And so we started getting bigger and bigger results and the transformation. And one of the things that started happening, which was so valuable and fulfilling for me, is that it wasn't just the businesses, it was the businesses and the lives. And so doctors are talking about the morning routines that they now have, talking about losing weight, talking about their relationship with their families being better, talk about, now I do this number of massages a month and I travel. And it was so rewarding because I talk a lot about 6, 7, and 8-figure businesses and all those kind of things. But the truth of the matter is, for the people who know me, they know I could not be bothered by money. Right? Like I don't shop. I never want to do retail therapy. I love my jeans and my t-shirt. And, if my husband was not such a power dresser and he takes a lot, like when you're like, oh my goodness, Dr. Una, you look amazing in that dress, he bought it. Like I couldn't be bothered. I would want a new car, but I want a new car because I don't want to ever have to go have anything fixed. Like, right. So I'm not like, oh, it must be this or that. Like it's not really my thing. I talk a lot about it because for physicians, that's almost like our Achilles heel. And if you don't figure out the money thing, you're setting yourself up not to have the freedom to do all the other things. So I talk a lot about it, but I'm very clear on the concept of a rich life, right? Like having it all. When we have our vision retreats, I talk a lot about the 9 areas of life, right? I've talked about it on the podcast as well. I don't want you to be rich financially and poor everywhere else. I want you to have that whole life and be rich on every side. And so seeing that, it was like, oh my goodness, it's so good. People have their scheduled date nights and all these things. It's just so good. People are like, oh yeah, now I have lunch with my kids twice a week. I go to their school. My business has allowed me to have that freedom to do that. And it was just so rewarding. And you've heard many of the doctors and the wins they've created, people who, cross 6, 7, multiple 7, people who had multiple 7-figure businesses are like, I'm just going to shut this down. This is crazy. And now they've fallen in love with their businesses again and they're growing it. It is just so good. Now, there is a popular saying in the EntreMD Business School, and that is the reward for solving problems is new problems, right? Like, so in the process of solving problems, you create more problems. And then, so what we noticed, and I'm so glad I'm telling you the backstory because you'll get so much out of this. What started happening is people started having a lot of problems with building teams. Started having a lot of problems with their processes. So the processes that held up till they got to 7 figures or, multiple 7 figures, they were just falling apart. And the burnout they traded, they're like, I'm not doing that burnout thing anymore. I'm going to build my business. And what I'm building is great. They are now tipping over to this place where the business was creating burnout, right? And they were almost sabotaging, like they didn't want to grow anymore because they're like, growing is just going to create more of a mess over here. And so I knew that it was time not to remove people from the business school, but to build a second tier, another tier that really was focused on helping people build teams, helping people build processes that can handle the growth, and helping people maximize profits, right? Because when you start growing, if you grow inefficiently, the bigger your business gets, the smaller your profit margin is. And so you're doing so much more for so much less, right? And things like that. And so I knew it was time for another tier that was focused on that. Now, they would still get everything that comes with what we knew as the business school, but then they have, this other thing going on. And so I knew about this, but then the drama. So if you may be going like, like if I build my business to this stage, I won't have drama. If I do it for this long, it's always there. Every time you try to take a leap, it will show up every single time. And so I was like, oh man, if I build this, will they want it? Will they think I want to take advantage of them? And I'm like, but no, you're only trying to solve a problem. The only reason we're having this conversation is because there's a problem. But you would think that made me move, but no, it didn't. It didn't. And so a year ago, I went for the Business Makeover Mastermind. By this time, I had known this for months. And Dr. Dada, big shout out to her. She walked up to me. She's like, Dr. Una, we are having new problems in our business and we need something. You need to build something for us. And I was like, I was like, okay, I've been thinking about it. I'm working on it. What kind of challenges are you facing? As she talked about it, it was like what I suspected. It was around team, it was around processes, it was around profitability and all of those kind of things, and I was like, okay, and in addition to that, I really, I am not an advocate for people leaving medicine. I really am not. I'm an advocate for you doing whatever it is you want to do. But when it comes to business, the most dangerous type of business to build is a business that cannot work without you. Right. And so I was like, I want our doctors to be able to build businesses that are assets. You don't have to walk away from it, but you have options. Like if you wanted to sell it, or if you wanted someone else to run it and you wanted to take a year off, go on a sabbatical, or whatever it is you want to do, it's set up for you to do that. And I think one of the things that really made that hit home for me is, there was a lady who, she had been in her practice for, I want to say 25 years, and she tried to sell her practice, but she was the only doctor in her practice. And so really she had owned a job for 25 years. She tried to sell that thing for a little amount of money, like 40,000. And she couldn't sell it. Like nobody would buy it for 40,000. And it made me commit to building an asset, right? And so if I said, right now, do I think of selling my practice? No, but I have options. If, for instance, I've been away from it for 17 months, so nobody can think, oh, if she walks away, it will fall apart. It won't. It survived. It's grown in 17 months without me, right? So anyway, so I was like, I want people to be able to build assets. Like these are business assets, But anyway, so she told me that, and I was like, okay. So this is in April. You would think I knew, and now she's telling me. So Dr. Una, who's the massive action taker, will go do stuff. No. So April went by. And then in May, I said, okay, I'm going to get on the phone with a number of people, do some Zoom calls with a number of people I know who have created these problems for themselves. So I probably interviewed like 7 or 8 people. I'm like, okay, so what are the challenges you're facing now? What are your goals for your business? I just wanted to get a feel, because remember, we don't create things we like. We create things people need, right? And so I had the conversations with them. And at the end of the day, they all said the same thing. The stories were different, but they said the same thing. I was like, I have to do this. So this is in May. So of course you're like, oh, Dr. Una, so what happened in June? Nothing. July, nothing. August, nothing. Till the very end of August, I was like, okay, no, nothing happened in August. September, the very end of September, I was like, okay, I've been walking around with this thought for a year. I was like, I am not going to walk into the last quarter of this year still hanging on to this, like, I don't know better. And so I called up some of the people. I was like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're launching a new tier of the EntreMD Business School, and it's called EBS Scale. It's for the doctor who is at 7 figures or is close to it and is focused on hypergrowth. And at this point, you have the revenue confidence, right? And EBS Grow is about revenue confidence. Now, we do talk about team, we do talk about processes, but it's not the deep dive of the multi 7-figure owner, right? Like, because the primary focus is revenue generation. So we talk about that. Even the mastermind we talked a lot about team and all of those things. So I was like, the focus of this, we're not talking about revenue stuff. We're talking about, team, building the team, hiring the team, leading the team, profitability through the team, so those things, the processes, maximizing profits, the discipline of creating that separation between you and your business. They're 2 different entities. I call it the great divorce because it hurts. Right? You know what I mean? Like when you have a business, like I birth a baby and, and all that stuff. And so, for instance, in Scale, one of our earlier meetings, I was like, okay, so for 2023, is for 2022, how much time did you take off? They all talk about the time they take off. I'm like, okay, 2023, we're going to double the time off and you're going to make more money. That's the goal. That's what we're going to do. They're like, what? I'm like, mm-hmm. And here we are at the beginning of Q2 at the time of this recording. And even people who are like, they now go on quarterly vacations with their family. It's like the most bizarre thing. It's so beautiful. But that's, that was the focus for Scale. And so we had the doctors who came on in Scale, and the kind of conversations that happen in those rooms, the kind of wins they're creating, and people who are like, I don't know if I can hire or lead or whatever. They're leading their teams like bosses. They're hiring like bosses. It's so mind-boggling. So at the time of this recording, this has existed for 6 months, and they've created massive wins, massive. People who have acquired new properties, people who have, they're like, oh my goodness, Dr. Una, this is what my revenue looks like. This is the time I was able to take off. And they know they're not just building, for instance, practices. They're building companies. They're building assets. It's genius. It's beautiful. Anyway, so we built Scale. And I knew I was missing a tier. And I was like, no, I knew I was missing a tier. And, so let me track back a little bit. When we built Scale, then we're like, okay, so we have to call what has been the EntreMD business. It needs a name, right? Because Scale is still part of the business school. So we have EBS Grow, which is what we've always known as a business school. So that is EBS Grow. And then we have EBS Scale. Okay. So those are the two tiers. But I was like, there are a lot of doctors who listen to the podcast, who are creating wins, who want to do more. They're not ready to commit for a year. They're not ready to do that yet, but they still want to create. They're committed enough to their businesses to create great wins. And so I've been thinking about it. I've known about this for at least a year. So if you're here like, oh, I knew about it, but I didn't do it. I am telling you all the things so you know that you're all right, right? The best of us do this. So anyway, I'm like, I've known about this. I'm like, So I was like, I need to create something that is really high value. So this is not fluff. That is really high value, but it's a container that can give them big breakthroughs. So the way we describe it is 180-degree turnaround in 180 days. So I started playing around with this. So if I could create this 6-month program, I know a number of them, the issue is some of it is a little bit of time, and I'm like, okay, we're going to make this self-paced. And we're going to take like a few very critical components and put it in there. So if they are committed, they can create massive wins in 180 days. And so this is what we then went on to create. Okay. So we created a 6-month program that is self-paced. Okay. But the content is very strategic. So the first thing is 5 days to your best year, which is our system for setting your goals for the year. Okay. What that system is. So that's the first thing. The second thing we put there is the 90-day sprint plan workshop, because in the EntreMD Business School, we decided we are going to live 90 days at a time. The first time we did that was for Q1 of 2023. And the wins, my goodness, like people are like, like I created the same amount of revenue in Q1 as I did in 2022. Like, you know what I mean? And people are like, oh my goodness, I love this. Because when you think about something to do over a year, you're like, I got time. It's a whole year. When you think about something to do in 90 days, you know you don't have time. You call yourself out. You hold yourself more accountable. You take more actions. And so it's so great. So I was like, so we took that workshop. We put it in there. And then I ran a series called The $1 Million Entrepreneur, where I talked about the response to failure, the mindset, the habits, how they create quantum leaps through networking, talked about leading a profitable team, the processes, the success path. There were like 10 different modules. And I was like, okay, this way, even though it's self-paced, even though you're doing it for 6 months, you're setting yourself up to get this is the right way to do this stuff with the right foundation. Because the last thing you want to do is build a business, then later on decide I want to do it like I mean it, and the foundation is wrong. And so even if you're like private practice, I want to create this, like I've been stalling, I want to create this quantum. You have enough. You have enough to create big wins for yourself. And so that we put that in there. We're like, okay, you're going to need some accountability. And so like, fine, we'll do a weekly text message that goes out like, hey, chop, chop, let's go, like something really motivational. And so we put that and we're like, okay, we know that community is magic. We need to do some community. Said, great. So we'll do a live session once a month where they would get to hear from a physician entrepreneur who's killing it, right? And they'll come there and there'll be some community there. And then once a month, they also get a virtual networking event. Okay. So we put all this together. So I looked at it, I tested it. And all these things are things that we've taught in EBS Grow. So I'm like, these things work. And I was like, okay, great. And so we put it all together. Again, I was like, I don't know. But I was like, man, if someone is just like, I will do the work. And what we told them is, this is not about learning. This is not about a certificate. This is about doing something, about learning something and doing, learning and doing. It's not about running through. It's learning and doing. If you will learn and do and go through everything, you have a completely different business. And you as the entrepreneur will be different. And so we set that up. And, like, if you look at it, the EntreMD Business School Grow, EBS Grow is a $25,000 product, which is a steal because of the wins that are created, right? EBS Advance, which is what we call that tier, EBS Advance is a 6-month program that is $3,500. And I told people, I said, listen, this is going to be a $10,000 program. So for the founding members who join, it's $3,500. Enjoy it while it lasts. I can't even believe I'm doing this, but I really want to see doctors win. Okay. And so I created that tier. And I cannot tell you how happy I am that no matter your phase of business, there is a spot for you. There is a spot. So if you're like, I listen to the podcast, it's great. I'm not quite ready, for the year-long thing, but I want to do, I know there's more and I want some accountability. I want some community. There's EBS Advanced for you. And I cannot believe it, but it's $3,500. Like, it's like, if you've been thinking about it, like, it's entremd.com/advanced. Like, just go do it. Okay. Okay. So that's that piece. If you're like, I'm gung ho, I'm all in, I'm willing to put in the time, the energy, the effort to get this stuff done, but I am for hyper growth. That's what I want. I want hyper growth. And I want to be in a community of people who are doing it. Then EBS Grow is for you. EBS Grow is pure magic. Like, it really is. It's like a happy place. Okay. All right. So entremd.com/business, go there. And then, scale is really for the entrepreneur who is like, I'm at 7 figures. I want to go to multiple 7. I'm at multiple 7. I want to really build a company that is a well-oiled machine that can work without me and stuff like that. I want to create really big wins. I want to create even more of my dream life. Scale is a place for you. Okay. Scale is application only, as is Grow, but it's application only. And so it's entremd.com/scale, right? And now we have those 3 tiers. Now we have a spot for everybody in the EntreMD Business School. Now you can be a student. I cannot believe that you can be a student for $3,500 for a while it lasts. So if you're listening to this podcast a long time from now, it won't be $3,500, but there is a space for you. So really, if you're a physician who is committed to building a thriving business, and not just the business, but you also want to build a thriving life. You want to have both of them. My great news is that there's a spot for you. There's a spot. So you find the spot that fits you and you get in the spot. But in the EntreMD Business School, we are a community of people who are building the most innovative, most impactful, most profitable businesses inside and outside of healthcare. And we are building those businesses and our dream lives concurrently. There have been a lot of problems in the healthcare space and all of that. And there's been problems with our training because I don't think people anticipated this is what medicine will look like now. So our training is not enough. We're missing a critical component, which is the business training. That's not a problem anymore at all because the EntreMD Business School exists. So I want to invite you to come join us. If you're like, I need some direction on which one to do, then just sign up for a call, entremd.com/call, and we'll take care of you. But now there's a spot for everybody. And I can't wait to see you in it. Okay. So this is my call to action would be, please don't not do anything. Please don't hear this and go like, yeah, that's nice. There's a place for you. Find your place. If you're in grow and you know scale is for you, come on. Right? If you're in advance and you're like, I've been doing this and this is magical, but I'm ready. I'm ready for grow. Come on. There's a place. And I shudder with joy when I think of where in a few short years, where our alumni will be, where our students will be, because we're getting it done. We really are. So I invite you to be part of this movement. I invite you to be part of it. And please share this episode with another doctor in your life. Cannot wait to meet you on the inside of the EntreMD Business School. And I will see you, my friend, on the next episode of the EntreMD podcast. Hey, if you love listening to the EntreMD podcast, I want to invite you to join EntreMD On Demand. It is my signature subscription program that gives you access to a library of business courses designed to help you do one thing as a physician entrepreneur, and that is to thrive. Just head out to entremd.com/on demand, and I'd love to have you join us. See you on the inside.